Welcome back, you beautiful beast. It is Tuesday, March 18th. We're back here live from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm coming to y'all a little drunk. Went out, had a couple beers tonight. Not very drunk, but definitely feeling a good buzz. Disclaimer, we might be talking nonsensical. Might have a little nonsensical chat going on right now. I looked at my last night's podcast. I didn't feel very proud of it coming out of it. Here I go. But I watched it again and I realized how many times I say the word Like I lost count of how many times I said and it pissed me off. You know, I was the one recording it and I'm getting pissed off at how many times I said I apologize. I'm still new to this. I'm still learning. It's a learning process, and we're learning together. So we are going to work on that this episode. We're going to work on saying We're going to find a better filler word. You know, something like that. Already made the what do you call it? The thumbnail for this video. So this is the topic we're going to get into. First of all, check out the work on this thumbnail. For those of you just listening, you can't hear it. Tonight's episode is going to be titled Kidnappings, Wilderness Camps, Felonies, and Trauma. So we're going to dive into another story. Last episode I talked about moving to Austin, Texas, and what that was like. I talked about like being homeless and talking to girls on Tinder and a bunch of nonsensical shit. Tonight we're getting even more nonsensical. I said it. I'm sorry. Tonight I want to get into just another story. I kind of want to break myself into the few viewers that I have and kind of like introduce you to some of these stories that I've lived through and let you kind of decide who I am as a person from those stories. I don't want to tell you that I'm like a cool dude who has all the answers. You know, I want you to decide that, you know, I might be a dickhead who's lived through a lot of experience and has learned from that experience. That, you know, that's better than me telling you who I am. So, I didn't really plan for this episode. You know, I was going to come home. I was going to cook dinner. I was going to sit down and, you know, like kind of plan it out beforehand. But I came home and the weather it's like the last good day of weather here in Nashville. And I really, really, really just wanted to go get a beer. I stayed at work late, you know, I worked hard, I was driving a forklift. I felt really like masculine doing it, you know. You work in a warehouse, you drive a forklift, you gotta end the day of work going to get a beer. It's just the way to treat yourself. It's just the way to kind of like finalize that masculine energy that you're performing. You're just performing a masculine task, so you got to go get a beer after work to treat yourself. And that is exactly what I did. And one beer turned to two, and I got a burger, and it was great. It was fucking great. And I'm actually pulling out a Heineken here. I got the Heineken sitting next to me. Probably don't need to drink any more of it if I want to make a cohesive episode today, but we're only 2 episodes into this thing that I'm doing. I don't even have a name for it. It's a self-titled like channel where I'm just going to post episode and the number and a little title for it. So enough with like the intro and bullshit. Let's get that out the way. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about this experience that I had when I was 17 years old. So let's kind of dive into who I was when I was 17. I was a junior in high school. And let's take it back 5 years from today. 2020. I'm sure you all have your own experiences with 2020. What a crazy little time it was. I said it again. 2020 was crazy. It was fucking nuts. There was a lot going on. The biggest key factor here was that COVID was a big thing. And COVID had just kind of rolled around during 2020. I was a junior in high school. I was at a 6A public school in Madison, Mississippi. I was a student athlete. I was a part of the soccer team. The soccer team at our school was relatively popular. We had this group chat that was very popular because we would send horrible things about people in there, and everyone kind of knew about it. It was kind of infamous. We were like, we were fun. We were cooler than most of the people because we were very open to hanging out with anybody. We threw some cool parties. I was just your typical like teenager. My biggest difference was that I hated authority. There was nothing I hated more in my life than somebody telling me what to do, because at that point I kind of had come to the realization that nobody really knows what the fuck they're talking about. And so for you to kind of tell me what to do is just, it's asinine. In my opinion, at that time, I thought anybody trying to tell me how to live is a fool and that I could never be wrong. That was obviously a huge personal flaw, and it was costly, as you're going to come to learn. So 17 years old, I'm a bit of a shithead. I'm in high school. I'm in junior year of high school. This was like, I don't want to say it was my prime because that's admitting that I'm way past that point, but I was living it up. I felt like I was decently popular at school. I had a lot of friends. I was dating a pretty hot girl. My relationship status with, she was a hot, popular girl and we were dating, and I was in this middle of this love fling with this other girl who, God forbid, that's going to be a whole episode on its own. But here, I said it again, I'm sorry. We're just in a good time of my life. And then COVID just shows up. I remember reading about it in the news and everyone's like, oh, this disease is like spreading across China and Europe. And it's just like out the movies. And you're like, what? Is it going to hit America? That was the big question. And it swept through America and shut everything down, as I'm sure you all know because we all lived through it together. So COVID happens, and I'm a shithead junior in high school. Not just a junior, I'm a shithead. I'd had run-ins with the law. I was keen to running away. I would always run away when I got into a lot of trouble. I like to think sometimes that I spent more of my adolescent life grounded by my parents than I did ungrounded as like a free citizen. And that's true. It's almost true. I spent a lot of time grounded for doing shit, but like it wasn't nothing crazy. Like I knew kids in my high school class who would pop Xanax at school or like smoke geek, like some like drug out of a vape in the bathroom and like tweak out and have to like get pulled out on a stretcher. Like those were some of the kids out, in my class. So I wasn't doing terrible, but I smoked pot. I smoked pot when I was like 16, and like I vaped a lot. I was a bit of a vape guy, like I'd been vaping for a while and I drank a little bit, but I'm a high school. I'm drinking like Four Locos. It's not like I'm like, hammering down some bourbon and showing up to school or anything, which I knew teachers that did that. But I was like a Four Loco on the weekend type of fella, and a bit of a shithead. But the big thing I think is that I hated authority and I hated listening to anybody. And when somebody told me something that was actually really important that I should probably listen to, I disregarded it completely. Personal flaw. So 17 years old and COVID rolls around is a bit of a weird time in my life. It's just sneaking out of the house like all the time before COVID and like just meeting up with people and smoking pot. I do want to mention, like, I might be downplaying myself a bit, but like when I was 14, I would sneak out of my house and take my mom's car and go pick kids up that like I told her I was going to sneak out. And I was just drive them around in this like Buick Enclave, and we would just like, there was no plan. We wouldn't do anything like exciting because it's 4 a.m. and we're all 14 years old. And so I was a bit like, I was not a bit. I keep saying a bit. I was a shit. And I had everything that was coming to me. It was very well deserved. So COVID happens, and my sweet mother, who I love so much, she is immunosuppressed, meaning that she's very prone to sickness. She has a kidney transplant in her past, and COVID was a very big worry for our family. I remember my dad sitting us down and being like, your mom, if she gets this disease, is going to die. She's going to die. We don't know what this disease is, but if she gets it, she's going to die. And that was like, just like, put on us, me, my sister, and my brother. But I'm in the prime of like sneaking out and smoking pot with the homies. And I didn't want to stop because some Chinese disease is like infiltrating the American border. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. Like, I'm going to be smart. I'm not going to like share bongs with anybody or anything. But, I'm going to sneak out. I'm going to see this girl I like, or this or that, blah, blah, blah. And so my mom has to, like, COVID is in like full swing. It's like that initial first wave, full swing. Obviously, everybody's panicked. Everybody's staying home. We're just bound to like our homes, and we can't leave or anything. And I was like an avid Fortnite player, I was actually the #1 ranked player in Mississippi, which I still flex to this day. It's not a very impressive flex, but I still flex it. I still like to tell people that, like, for a solid 10 seasons, I was the #1 ranked player in Mississippi. My buddy, who was #2, might debate that fact, but I do believe I was #1. I was fucking cracked. And Fortnite could only tide me over for so long. You're cooped up in your house for like days and days and days on end. And I got sick of it. And I knew other people who were sneaking out and like meeting up and smoking pot and having fun. And some of my buddies, like families, didn't even give a fuck about COVID. We're in Mississippi, These people said, fuck it. Fuck this disease. It's not actually like a real thing. It's the government or whatever. So these people are having a blast, and my family was very like locked down, mask everywhere, wipe down like your clothes and shit before you walk back into the house. And I was an adolescent. I was a very immature adolescent. I was very reckless, and I said enough is enough. So my mom had to go quarantine at our grandparents' house for like a week straight, and she couldn't come back home until like everyone in the house hadn't seen anybody for like, what was it, like a 2-week period? So we're waiting on, because I had been going to school and like leaving the house and stuff, but now I had to stay home so my mom could come home. And selfish me was like, enough is enough. And so it's just me, my dad, and my brother and sister. My sister was still living at home at this time. And I remember one night, I'm in a Fortnite lobby, actually, like a live like Fortnite lobby. Wait, yeah, man, it's hard to remember sometimes. Anyway, I get caught. So I'm in a Fortnite lobby, and I'm talking to the guy who I'm going to sneak out and go pick up. I'm like, look, this is what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And so I was on the second floor of my house, and me and my brother, whose rooms and bathroom we shared, had this like balcony that like connected our rooms. And I remember like prepping the balcony door, because we had this like an alarm system that they installed for me because I was sneaking out so much. And it was a Vivint. So, like, every time the door would open, it would, like, bun down, and, like, send an alert that, hey, upstairs door 2 is open. Upstairs door 2 is ajar. And so my parents had us on lockdown. Like, I was on lockdown. My brother and sister didn't sneak out, or at least didn't get caught sneaking out, but it was all me. And I prepped this, like, my backpack and everything I need on the balcony. And I go out there, and I smoke some pot. And I walk back in the house, and I'm like getting ready to leave, and I heard like my dad come up the stairs, and I thought I heard him leave. And I remember like walking back on out on the balcony, and I'm like throwing my backpack on, and it's like pitch black. It's probably like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm throwing my backpack on. I'm getting ready to like slide down this pole to like the first floor, and you can sense the presence of another human being, and my dad is like in the corner of this balcony, like in the dark, just sitting there. And he goes, what the fuck do you think you're doing, And I jumped out my goddamn skin. I'm like, nothing. I was just smoking pot, Obviously, I had a backpack on. I was getting ready to jump over this railing and slide down this pole. A huge fight ensues. I'm still in the Fortnite lobby, so my friends who are actually in that lobby heard the whole thing. Mics on, headsets off. And it was just a huge, huge fight. He's screaming at me, saying, you're putting your mother at risk, which I was. I'm not going to lie, I was. This and that, blah, blah, blah. He proceeds to take my laptop off my desk and hurl it off the balcony. Just chuck that bitch off. Completely broke it. It's like $1,000 laptop. Broke that bitch. Which, who cares? Obviously, he was mad. He had every reason in his in the world to be mad, because it was a very stressful time, and I think we were all kind of at our breaking point. And a huge fight ensues, and I just remember him storming downstairs. I threatened to fight him. My brother was so scared. I just heard him like rack a shotgun in his room. I was like, we gotta like de-escalate this situation. Shit's getting out of hand. And so the next day, my mom comes from my grandparents' house, and we all have a meeting in the backyard. And I have this cousin who I love so dearly. I love you. She was a bit of a troublemaker. She was 3 or 4 years younger than me. And her parents, decided to send her off to like a wilderness camp, maybe a month and a half prior to even like COVID hitting, because she was like in a really bad state. And so we have this meeting in my backyard. Everyone's 6 feet apart with masks and like gloves on. And they're telling me, Patrick, you're out of control. All through high school, you've kind of just refused to listen to anybody. You keep getting in trouble with the police and the law and us. You refuse to listen to anybody. You don't respect anybody. We think you need help. That was their big thing. We think you need help. And you're 17. When you're 18, we have no way to control you. You're going to be an adult. And we think now is the time that you need to go to a camp. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck are these crackers talking about? A camp? I mean, I'm way older than like summer camp. Like, we're not doing none of that bullshit. We're going to send you, as they said, to a wilderness camp like your cousin. We're going to drive you up there. We're going to drop you off. And we think while COVID's happening that this is a perfect time for you to go. Huh. I said, Okay, I say. There was no way in fucking hell that I was going anywhere. Anywhere. Especially not a wilderness camp. That sounds lame. I'm not doing that. And so I agree. I'm like, okay, maybe y'all are right. Look, maybe you are right. I need help. And whatever y'all think is necessary, I will do. And so my mom leaves. My dad, maybe went to go, drive her back to my grandparents or something. My dad left the house. Maybe he went to the grocery store, which was, a 2-hour ordeal because he, would Clorox wipe everything before he touched it and, come back home, change clothes in the garage and, a huge ordeal. So he leaves. It's just me, my brother, and my sister. And I'm like, I gotta go. I'm leaving, but it's not to no wilderness camp. I'm leaving this house. And so I go and I find my dad's. Maybe my dad went fishing. Maybe that's what he went to do. I don't know. He went off, which I later found out he had a lot of very personal demons that he was fighting. And so maybe he went off to kind of do some things that he probably regrets nowadays. But he disappeared. And I remember finding his wallet. And I went to his bedside drawer and I stole all the cash that he had. All of it. It was maybe $900. And then I went upstairs to my brother's room and I stole all. He had been collecting quarters for 6 years. I stole all of his quarters. And brother of mine, I don't know if you know, but it hurts me to even think that I stole your quarter collection. I stole it. I took all of your quarters, I dumped them in a Ziploc bag, and I put them in my backpack. And I think it was just my sister who was home. Maybe my brother went, I don't know where my brother went. Maybe he went to the store with my dad. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. It's just me and my sister home. And I was grounded. Oh, don't get me wrong. Full lockdown. They're don't let him anywhere. Don't give him the keys to his car or anything. My sister actually had the keys to my car. This is a part of the story. And don't let him go anywhere. This is this. He's grounded. He's very in trouble. We know he's gonna run away or something. We know he's prone to doing that. So make sure he's secure. And oh God, this is crazy. It's crazy I'm even saying this because wow, I don't even. You talk about it and you start remembering some of this shit. You're holy fuck. You were a horrible person. I was a bad person. So anyway, I got all the money I needed. I packed a shirt and a t-shirt and some shorts into a backpack. I'm that's all I need. And my plan was I was going to steal the car keys from my sister. I was going to get in the car. And I was in contact with this dude who I'd never met in real life. His gamer tag on Xbox was Savage Zebra. His name is Cody, and he lived in Illinois. And my goal was I'm going to run away. I'm going to see all the people I need to see before I actually, dip out permanently. And I'm going to go live with Cody in his basement. I'd never met Cody in real life, but we were really good friends online. And he had said, look, he was actually in the Fortnite lobby when all the shit went down. He said, look, if you need somewhere to come to Illinois. You can live in my basement. And I was like, perfect. That's just what I need to do. It's going to get me out of this situation. And so I remember walking to my sister's room. And I knock on the door. I'm all polite. And she opens it. And my eyes instantly scan for my car keys. And I see them on her dresser. And God, I want to disclaim, this is not who I am anymore, but this is who I was. I was a frantic and manic adolescent, who was super reckless. I saw the keys on this dresser right next to the door, and I just remember giving her a hug and saying, Larissa, I love you. I said that. I said, Larissa, I love you. And I grabbed the keys and I fucking ran. And I fucking ran straight to my car with my backpack, got in the car, started it, and as I'm pulling out the driveway, she was such a nervous wreck. It makes me feel horrible telling y'all this. This is super personal and deep, but she was so scared. She's like, don't leave, don't. Oh my God. I'm laughing because there's nothing else I can do. I don't want to cry, but she was like, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. And she jumped on the hood of my car. She's telling me not to leave, and I just remember I went forward, slammed on the brakes, got her off, and peeled around her and drove off. All hell ensues. So I wasn't gonna drive to Illinois straight away. There was, I didn't want to do that. So I remember I went and I was like, I'm free. I'm 17 years old. I'm free. Fuck this. And so I went and I bought a zip of weed, a big baggie of weed. And I remember it started with my immediate family. My brother called. First, it was my sister called me. I didn't answer. Then my brother and my dad called me and I didn't answer. And then my mom calls me and I didn't answer. And it slowly progressed. And then I'm having my cousins call me. And my aunt calls me. And eventually, everyone in my extended family is trying to get me on the phone. I'm like, fuck this. So I turn off my phone completely. I go and I buy some weed because that was cool to do. I fucking spent the fucking quarter collection that I stole from my brother. I spent it on the zip of weed, and I gave it to the plug. And he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "That's about $18 in quarters, and I got another 20 here." What can we do? It was a 6-year collection of certain quarters, and guys, it hurts me. It hurts me talking about this. So anyway, I shut off my phone and I go and I see some buddies. I'm like, look, guys, this is what I did. I fucking ran away. I stole a lot of money from a lot of people. I stole a fucking quarter collection. I have nowhere to go. I think I'm gonna go to Illinois and see my boy Cody. And they're like, who? Savage Zebra, whatever. And this girl I was talking to at the time, I remember, just not answering the phone all day, and I finally went to her house. All day, I don't even know where I was all day. I just was trying to figure it out. Nighttime rolls around, and I go to this girl's house. I remember staying at her house, and I'm like, it's the last time I saw her in person before everything went down. We were really close. We had dated for a while before this, and just I knew her very, 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 very well. And I went to her house. I'm like, this is what happened, and they harbored me, as a fugitive. They didn't tell my parents where I was because maybe they thought I was being abused or something. I'm sure nobody really knew what the fuck I was doing. The truth was, is I was just a shithead, and I made a horrible decision. I was not willing to owe up to it. But fuck wilderness camp. That's my whole thought. Is These people are trying to send me away to some crazy people place. I'm not going. And so finally, my cousin, who I mentioned last episode, he's 5 days younger than me. He's my closest cousin for sure. He calls me. And of course, I'm going to answer his phone call. So I answer it. He's the first person in my entire family to get a hold of me. And he's like, Patrick, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like, where are you? What are you doing? Well, cousin, I ran away. I ran away from home. I have no plan. I don't know what I'm doing. I ran. Well, I'm at, they have this farm up here in Tennessee. Well, I'm at the farm. You ought to just come up and stay with me, because COVID's happening, and they're just at the farm, like, trying to get away from everything. I'm like, you know what? It's a great idea. 7.5 hours from my house. It's with family, so I kind of have some sort of a game plan. This is where I'm going to go. And so I drive all through the night in my car. I'm driving fast. There's nobody on the road. It's prime COVID. And I just remember smoking pot, and I was so tired, and, like, I pulled over and, like, passed out. And eventually I pull up to their farm at, like, 7 a.m. And my uncle, my cousin's father, is a very serious man. I guess that's the best way. Very nice and loving and caring when you get to know him, but when you piss him off, you don't want to own up to it at all. I mean, he's a very intimidating man. One of the most intimidating people I know. But loving and caring and, like, really great guy, but super intimidating, especially if you pissed him off. Like, there's nothing you want to do except, like, crawl away from this man and, like, hide. But I remember I show up to their farm at, like, 7 a.m. and I'm greeted by my uncle. And he goes, give me your backpack, give me your keys, go the fuck to sleep. Pissed. And I'm like, at this point, I was so exhausted. I was like, fuck. No. He said, give me your backpack, give me your keys, go the fuck to sleep. If you try to leave, I will hunt you down and kill you. I remember that. I will never forget that. I will hunt you down and kill you. Very intimidating coming from this man. Extremely intimidating. I was like, yes, sir. I said, yes, sir. I'm going to bed. So I go to bed. And I wake up, and it's like dinner time. And I remember them coming and waking me up, like, my cousin. And he's like, come on down. Like, we're going to eat dinner. And so I come down. I'm eating dinner with them. And it's just, like, silent. And my cousin's sitting next to me. My uncle's sitting across from me. And he goes, Patrick, come here. We need to talk. And he, like, stands up and, like, walks, like, 5 yards from the table. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And so I stand up and I walk over to him. And he's like, are you out of your fucking mind? I was like, no, sir. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know you put your family under a lot of stress, blah, 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 this and that. Are you out of your fucking mind? I was like, no, sir. He goes, well, we need to get this out of the way. He goes, where do you want it? I was like, what? I was like, what is this guy talking about? He goes, where do you want it? And in my mind, I'm like, holy fuck, this dude's about to hit me. He goes, where do you want it? And I'm like, huh? And the motherfucker, this big, beefy dude, just socks me in the fucking face. Drops me to the fucking floor. Immediately. Like, I dropped to the floor. I had glasses on and everything. Glasses fly off. I'm on the floor. He just socked me in the goddamn nose. Like, straight in the nose. He didn't even go for a cheek or, like, a forehead or an eye or anything. Straight in the fucking nose. Bah! He just fucking smacks me. I hit the floor. My cousin's fucking laughing. Like, laughing. He thinks this is fucking funny. And he points at him. He goes, stop laughing, you motherfucker. You're next. This is how serious this motherfucker is. So anyway, that was my runaway to... So now I'm here. I'm at the farm. And over the next couple of days, I'm in trouble, which means my cousin's in trouble. So my uncle, like, sentences us to, like, 1963, like, prison labor. We're, like, hauling shit around the field. We're having to paint these, like, Target signs. We couldn't really, like, talk or anything. We're, like, super in trouble. My cousin didn't do anything. He was just there. But he was just as much in trouble as I was. And so we're there for a couple days. And finally, they're like, fuck it. We're going back to our house. And so we go back. And I was probably there half a week. And then we go back. And I'm at their house in Nashville for a week, and I'm living there. And this is about Easter time, COVID. It's Easter time 2020. I remember spending Easter with them, and I think it was that night after like we ate dinner or whatever. You know, I mean, we were just playing. Me and my cousin, like, we're playing Fortnite this whole time. He's still like, I can't believe you ran away. But I had this growing anxiety that like I knew something was gonna happen. I remember coming to my cousin one time when his parents were gone, and I was like, dude, you know, like, we've had fun here. We've played a lot of Fortnite. We haven't really done anything, but I think I need to leave. And he goes, what do you mean? And I was like, hey, like, I really think I need to leave. I need you to help me. I need you to tell me where my car keys are. I know your dad has them, but I need you to give me my car keys so I can get my car and I can leave and you don't have to worry about me anymore. And he's like, I can't do that. And I was like, well, like, you know where they are. And he's like, well, I don't know the key to the safe code or something. He was very nervous. I'm sure I had him like freaking out. Like, all these people obviously think I'm fucking insane, which they probably still do because I kind of am. But like, you know, I mean, like, I was frantic, you know, and I was really trying to leave. And the one thing that, like, the one reason I didn't leave, like, I had considered stealing like their car to like leave and escape in, but they drove some like really nice cars. And I kept thinking back to my uncle who said, like, if you leave, I will hunt you down and kill you. And I imagine myself on the road in one of their cars that I stole, and like him tailing behind me in this like mean motherfucking Hellcat that he drove. And I'm like, like, and you know, him armed to the teeth, ready to like pull me out the driver's seat and beat me senseless. And I'm like, I don't think stealing their car is going to be the best decision here. So I don't know what I'm going to do. So I was checkmate, you know, checkmate. I'm living with them for the unforeseeable future. So Easter dinner, going back to Easter dinner, it rolls around. And 1 second, let me sip this beer and clear my throat. Horrible. Heineken, not the move. Tastes like weed. So Easter dinner rolls around, and they're like, look, you need to call your dad. You need to call your parents. You got to talk to them. You know, you got to figure this out. I just remembered at the farm, you know, going back a couple days, my uncle set me down on a couch for like 2 hours, and he turns on this Jesus documentary, and he told me to watch it and learn from it and like better myself. I just want to throw that out there because that's a crazy piece of information that I didn't tell y'all, and I think that y'all should know that. Is that I sat on this couch and I try to learn from this like Jesus documentary. Anyway, he goes, you need to call your parents. You got to talk to them. So begrudgingly, what a big word, I call my dad. And he's like, how are you? You know, you had us worried sick. What were you thinking? I'm like, Dad, I don't know. You know, I made a mistake, but I'm here in Nashville now. I think this is for the better. Because whatever you may think about me from the information that I've provided to you, like, I was not in the mental headspace for the type of stress that was being brought onto me, and the type of like mass control is like a hysteria of like control that it was inflicting, and I was getting the shit into the stick of it all because I was the troublemaker, and all of this built up like stress was being taken out on me. Like I will say that I do see that like a lot of the shit that was going on, like, yes, I was acting recklessly, but it was being not dramatized, but you know, it was being inflicted on me in a more like extreme manner. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, like I fucked up, but I needed this space, and this has been good for me. I'm not frantic, I'm not manic, like I'm fine. You know, I'm away from everything. I think this is for the best. You know, I'm away from Mom. I don't want to put her at risk because I really didn't. And he goes, well, look, I'm driving up to Nashville tomorrow. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to come up and I'm going to drive you home. I was like, what about my car? Because I loved my car. I had a really cool car at that time. We're going to leave your car there over the summer and we'll figure it out after. I was like, okay, Dad. And so the next day my dad gets up there. And I mean, COVID protocol. He's wearing these big, like, dish gloves, like the big latex rubber dish gloves. He's got a mask on. He was pissing in Gatorade bottles, which, like, is funny to talk about now, but, like, he was, like, everyone was at risk, and this was an unknown that if my mom got COVID, like, there was a chance she died, but, like, he just thought she was just going to die. And so he comes up there, and we eat dinner together, and, you know, I make my amends in person. And I really thought, okay, fine. I'll go home. I'll face all the grounding I got to face. You know, I might spend all of quarantine without Fortnite, without my phone, but it is what it is. At least, you know, everything's okay. And I remember going to bed that night, and I'm FaceTiming the girl I mentioned before, who I saw before I left. And I was up late FaceTiming her. I'd probably stay up till 3 a.m. We're just talking. And, I mean, just talking, you know. And I hang up that call, and I went to bed. So I went to bed at like 3 a.m. And I remember waking up at like 5:30 in the morning. I heard something in my room. And I look up, and it's my dad. And he's like half crouched, like creep stepping like across the front of like the room. Like trying to sneak by me. And I wake up, and I'm like, Dad? And he freezes, like guilty, caught. Dad, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm looking for a phone charger, toothpaste. I'm looking for toothpaste. And I went to bed at 3, and this is like 2 hours later. So I'm like out of it. I'm half asleep. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm looking for toothpaste. I'm like, okay, Dad, whatever. And I go back to bed. 6 o'clock rolls around, 45 minutes later. And I hear on the door, and my eyes wake up. In my room are 3 very jacked, mid-30s white men. They're all wearing these like black polos tucked into these khakis with like a little logo on the side. I didn't have my contacts in, so I couldn't really remember. And behind these huge men is my shorter dad, and he's kind of like looking over their shoulder, like checking out the scene. And the dude in the front of these guys has this huge smile on his face, a big grin. Hey, Patrick, how you doing? Good morning. I'm like, what the fuck? My name is Bradley. My name is Bradley. I work for XXXXX, whatever. I'm going to take you to North Carolina. And I freeze in this bed. And I'm like, what did this cracker just say to me? What the fuck is this guy talking about? We're leaving right now. Do you have any clothes on? And then it hits me. Fuck. I'm caught. I'm done. It all the like build up and all the everything, it starts to hit me. Holy fuck. My parents are sending me to a wilderness camp in North Carolina. I realized it in that moment that these dudes were here to drive me to this wilderness camp. And I get a little teary-eyed. I felt defeated. I felt like, I felt like I had everything resolved. I felt like, holy shit, like I have this resolved. I'm going to go home, whatever. And I'm defeated. I'm cornered. I'm defeated. There's nowhere to run. And believe me, when I say there was nowhere to run, the vehicle that these guys brought was parked in the garage. The garage doors were shut. My uncle, which I later learned, is sitting at the top of the stairs with a shotgun in his hand, and the back doors have been locked from the outside. There was no escape. I was cornered. Fuck. They're like, throw on some clothes. Let's. What are those next to you? And I had a jewel pod in my sweatpants next to me. I'm like, my sweatpants? Why don't you throw those on for me, buddy? Okay. So I throw on these sweatpants, and I'm like, throw on my shirt. And I'm like, I need to grab my contacts. You don't need to worry about that. Grab those glasses. I need to. And then my mind goes to all my friends and all my, the girl. And I'm like, I need to tell people what's happening. I need to tell people. No, you don't. Why don't you leave your phone right there and don't touch it? Getting stern with me. So they come up, and these two dudes, like, they don't, like, armbar me or anything, but they definitely come and, like, grab me to, stabilize me. Because obviously they knew I was prone to, like, running fast. So two dudes come up, and they're sitting next to me. They kind of, like, set their hands on my shoulders, like, we're going to walk out to the garage. And this dude was so, like, over the top, like, trying to be friendly, like, trying to be my friend. Like, we're going to walk to the garage now. This is his name, and this is his name, and we're going to take you to the car, And so we go, and it's, like, this big, like, Nissan Armada. It's parked in the garage with the garage door shut. And I get in the back of this car, and my dad's sitting there fucking sobbing. And I get in the car with these strangers, and they're like, all right, you ready? So obviously I'm awake now. I know exactly what's going down. I'm like, these dudes are like some sort of like intervention service, some sort of like chauffeur, like weirdos who like to kidnap kids out of the bed in the morning, but they're going to take me to North Carolina. And I remember like 20 minutes into our drive, like we're just, in Nashville, like leaving Nashville. I'm thinking in my head the whole time, like, I need to escape. Am I going to unlatch the door and jump out of the moving car? Am I going to take my right hand and punch the dude on my left, like, as hard as I can in the face and try to, like, grapple these dudes to death? Or am I going to punch the dude in the driver's seat and knock him out and, like, take the control of the car and, like, crash it or something? Frantic, but, like, very controlled frantic. I'm sitting there and I'm trying to be, we'll say submissive. That kind of sounds sexual. I wasn't being submissive, but very, I was compliance. That's the word. That's less weird. I was complying with everything they said. I wanted to kind of give the perception that I'm complying. There's nothing to worry about. I know what's happening. That's okay with me. But every fucking step of the way, I'm thinking, like, when is my escape? Like, when is my chance? And I was like, wait. Anyway, these dudes talked to me this whole, like, way up to fucking North Carolina. Like, just talking about bullshit, and they're trying to, like, be my friend and, like, get me on their side so they don't have to, like, chase me down the highway and tackle me as I'm, like, running away from them. And they took everything from me, but they didn't know that I had a jewel in my, like, jogger's pocket. And it was, like, a 10-hour drive. And so there's two dudes, like, one dude sitting in the backpack, one, like, behind me. One dude sitting on my right in the, like, bucket seats. And there's another dude, like, no. One dude was sitting in the front, another dude sitting to my right, and then the dude driving. And I would sneak these, like, hits of my jewel, like, and I just remember, like, trying to hide that from them the whole car ride, because I knew if they found it, they would freak out. So anyway, I think we stopped, like, twice. We stopped once at a gas station because I told them I had to piss, and I was like, this is my chance. I'm going to run away right now. The two guys walked in with me, and they kind of, like, their shoulders were touching my shoulders as we walked to the bathroom. And I remember going into the bathroom, and I'm, like, walking into the stall to piss, and I'm, like, trying to shut the door, and the dude, like, slams his hand up and, like, stops the door, and he goes, sorry, no closed doors, we're friends, aren't we? I'm like, you motherfuckers. Like, I said, you gotta watch me piss? He's like, it's kind of our policy just to make sure nothing crazy happens in there. Fuck. So, anyway, 10 hours go by. 10 grueling hours of just, like, realizing what's happening to me. And we finally arrived to this place in North Carolina. It's probably, like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we show up to this, like, property. And I remember, like, as we neared, like, the 1 hour mark of where we were going, like, the only thing I would see is, like, these, like, hills and, like, mass, like, woods and, like, forest and stuff and, like, trailer homes and shit. And eventually, like, we're in the boonies. And I do want to mention because we're talking, and at this point I'm kind of, like, being friendly, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, a fun fact, North Carolina is considered a police state. I was like, well, what does that mean? He goes, all police technology in North Carolina is 1 year more than any other state in the country gets. That means that these guys are able to test new technology before it reaches any other police academy or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Police state. Weird, but cool, Foreshadowing. Keep that in mind. So we show up to the property of this place. It's called... Dude, it had such a lame name. It was like... Oh, fuck, what was it? I can't remember it right now, but I'm sure it's going to come to me. A weird name. So it's a wilderness camp for troubled teens. And the whole time they're kind of prepping me on, like, what this is. Well, you're a troubled teen, and other kids in the country also have issues. And what you're going to do is you're going to go out and you're going to hike. And we've actually escorted a lot of people to these camps, and they always say very positive things when they come out. They come out different people. They enjoyed the experience. The experience is good for you. Okay, guy. And so I get there, and we show up to this property, and we walk into this, like, mobile home, like, office. It's been renovated into an office. And these dudes are, like, checking me in and, like, doing this onboarding process. They fucking strip search me. They take all my clothes and give me this, like, jumpsuit. They get me to squat and, like, cough and make sure nothing falls out my ass and, like, the whole 9 yards. And so, anyway, they give me, like, this wilderness pack. It's, like, a backpack with all this gear in it. And they give me this bag, and they're like, this is your group, this is your group leader. You're going to go out here and you're going to fucking learn about the wilderness, and you're going to do therapy, and you're going to come out of this situation a better person. So I go out there, and I remember, God, it's very hard to remember, but I remember showing up and laying eyes on this, like, campsite and these kids out there. And I was like, these are some of the lamest and craziest motherfuckers I've ever laid eyes on. I do not belong here. Fuck this. That was my whole mentality the whole time. These motherfuckers are crazy as shit. I don't belong here. What the fuck? And so a couple days roll by, and I meet some kids in my group. Specifically, I meet two dudes. And all conversation had to be recorded, or not recorded, but had to be listened to by the people in charge. So we couldn't have private conversations. We couldn't have knives or anything. We couldn't do anything because a lot of these kids wanted to just fucking stick themselves in the neck and die right there. Not me, I was looking to escape. And so everything was kind of watered down. When we were talking, because we'd always talk in these groups and have, like, group sessions, you couldn't say certain words. And the food that they gave you, you couldn't call it by its actual name. Like, peanut butter was, like, nutty, or, like, PB or something. Granola was noli. Like, rice was, like, something. It was so fucking gay is what it was. Like, it was just fucking, like, watered down, saturated bullshit. And you couldn't call, like, I'm mad. You say, I am red. I'm feeling red today. And I was like, these motherfuckers are going to make me crazy is what they're going to do. This is fucking insane. There's no way, like, you expect me to sit here. And they wouldn't tell you how long these programs are. That's another thing. Because they knew you would crash out. They knew I would crash out if they told me how long it was. They're just like, you're going to be here for a while. Until you're better. That's what they always said. When you get better, you can leave. Insane. So, I'm 7 days in, and I'm like, I have to leave. I have to get out of here. And so over the next 3 days, I'm talking to two dudes, both 16 years old. I'm the oldest dude in the whole group because I'm 17. These two dudes are 16. And we hatch a plan over 3 days, like finding time to, like, kind of, like, whisper to each other, like, this is what time we're leaving, whatever. And I convinced these dudes. I led the ring on it. I'm like, basically the plan was we're going to leave in the middle of the night, and we're going to go and we're going to steal a car. And then this guy, one of the guys knew, like, a gang member in Atlanta, which was only like 5 hours away, who we were going to hole up with and hide while the manhunt happens. And the other dude had a lot of gang connections in Florida. So we were just going to go and, like, link with them. That was the game plan. And I felt like it was solid. I was like, that's a good plan. What could go wrong? So 3 days later, the plan finally comes to action. I remember that night, I wasn't nervous. I honestly felt, like, excited. I was so excited. I was like, I'm getting out of here. And the way this thing did is they had these tents that they would give you, and everyone had to pitch these tents, and everything's on, like, a tarp, and you can't really make it, because if you they knew people would try to leave. So all like the shoes, you got to take your shoes off and put it on this tarp away from the camp. All the tents like face inward of this circle, and the camp leaders sleep in the middle, and they could like hear you. So me, like, you know, the dudes like were in the tents next to me, and we like wake each other up or whatever, and we spend 1 hour, probably like midnight. We spend 1 hour unzipping our tents and like prepping to leave. And I remember one of the dudes was so fucking scared that he literally started like shaking and pissing himself as he like was like leaving the tent. That's how scared this guy was. And I remember we have no lights, we have no phones, we don't have anything. It's just us in the darkness. And we walk over to the boot tent and just grab 2 pairs of boots that, you know, were for right foot and left foot, throw them on and just start walking. And the adrenaline rush I was feeling at this point, I was like, holy shit, like, whoa, crazy. And so we walk out these woods, and we spend like an hour and a half like walking through the property. We had no idea where we were going. It's fucking pitch black, and the woods are like thick and dense. And eventually we stumble up on the office. Thank God. We found the office. All the staff had their cars parked along this office, and then there's the public road in front of this office. And so we're going, and we're like pulling door handles to all these cars. Is this one unlocked? Is this one unlocked? You know, find a car, find some keys, whatever. Nobody has them. So we start walking down this public road, and it's just 3 dudes in the middle of the night wearing jumpsuits, like walking down this road. And we probably walk like 2 miles, like 3 miles maybe. And finally we come across this house, the first house we fucking see. And in front of it is a brand new, like heavily modified, like Ford Focus ST, which is like this like hatchback, like sports car. And it was heavily modified. It had like carbon fiber all over the sides of it or whatever. And I remember I tug on the handle and the door just fucking opens. And I'm like, boys, this is it. So we all climb in. They all climb in, and I hop in the driver's seat. And we look down, and the keys are in the cup holder. I'm like, boys, this is it. And we're parked in front of this house. There's a driveway that's got like a big-ass truck in it. It's like a single-story home. And we're not parked far from the house. And I look down at this transmission on this car, and it's a fucking 6-speed manual. And so I think back. When I was at the farm a couple weeks prior, I watched my cousin, my girl cousin, learn to drive like a stick shift Jeep. I watched her as she attempted to learn, and she stalled like a ton of times, and I actually never drove it. And so when the guys with me, when they asked me, can you drive this? I'm thinking, I have all the experience I need to get us to where we need to go. That was my response. Yeah, I can do it. So, push to start. First of all, I didn't even realize how to start the fucking thing. You got to push the clutch and press the push to start. But I'm sitting there like pressing the brake trying to turn this thing on. So finally I step on this third pedal, which I had no familiarity with, and I fucking crank this thing up. And this car fucking screams alive. Like it was a heavily modified car. So, and I'm like, holy fuck, this thing just woke up everybody in a 2-mile radius. 1 second. I know we're just getting to the exciting part, so I'm like, all right. The time is now. Put it in first. And so I put it in first gear. And then I fucking stall. Like 15 yards from like where I got it. Like I got it in the first and I'm moving, but I fucking jump off the clutch too much and I stall. And the thing just starts revving. Like I think I shifted maybe into neutral or something, and I'm just revving it. Like vroom ba ba ba, vroom ba ba ba, vroom ba ba ba. And we're like everybody's just like panicked. And the whole lights of this entire house just beep, come on. And we're like, ditch the car and run. The doors fly open. We're on a slope, and we just take off. The car's in neutral, and it's still like rolling, and like rolls off into this like small ditch. The lights in this house come on, like flash on. The door comes open. We're like booking it down the road. And we hear the truck in the driveway come to life. And we're just, full adrenaline. You're not even thinking. You're just booking it down the road. How far can we get? We hear rubber meet asphalt. This truck is hauling ass down the road, and the sound is getting closer, a lot closer with every second that passes. So we come around this bend, and we're coming up, and there's a couple different like single story like trailer homes on each side of us, and we come around this bend, and this truck comes flying around this bend behind us and like slams on the brake because he almost fucking hits us in the middle of the road. Skirt! And fucking pulls up right next to us. The front door flies open, and we hear, with a flashlight on us, freeze, freeze, don't fucking move, freeze, freeze. One dude, the dude from Florida, throws his hands up immediately and just stops. The dude's got like a pistol and a flashlight pointed straight at us. Me and the other dude, I just fucking grab him and we book it off the side of the road into these people's yard, and we just start running. So we go past through their front yard, by the side of their house, into the backyard, and it's nighttime. We have no lights. We can't see anything. There's no street lights out here. And we're running and running and just fall face first into this like creek. Like face first, we fly off like a 2-foot drop and just fall into this creek like face first. The water's fucking freezing. It's fucking freezing. We both get fucking soaked, and I just grab him like, we gotta keep going, we gotta keep going, we gotta keep going. And the creek is at the bottom of this like huge hill. And the woods are like thick. Like this is like dense forest. Like it's not like your neighborhood like park. This is like dense, like unmanned forest. And we're sitting there like climbing through the shrubbery like of this forest, like climbing up this hill and climbing out, and like it's pitch black. We can't see anything, but it's pure adrenaline. Anyway, we hear the truck, and it flies up this road because there's like a road maybe like 500 feet to our left, and we see the truck fly up the road and just disappear. And so we're climbing through these woods and this kid's just bawling his fucking eyes out. Like he's so scared. And I'm like, dude, like keep it together. We gotta go. So we run for about an hour, and you can't get far in an hour when you're just climbing through like this like dense shrubbery. And so we finally get to like this resting point on this hill. And I'm like, dude, look, we can't see anything. We're soaking wet. It's freezing out here. We're on the run from this like crazy man who just pulled a gun on us. Like, we have to like stop. And I'm like, look, we're going to camp by this tree. We're going to wait till sunlight, and we're going to be able to see where we're going so we don't fall off a cliff and die. And we're going to figure out, what the next step is. And so we post up under this tree, and we're both like just sitting there like shivering, just fucking like shaking in the cold. And we hear police sirens in the distance, like a lot of police sirens. They're like about half a mile away. And I'm like, dude, like, holy shit. Like, and he's freaking out. He's like, dude, that's the cops. Like, they're looking for us. I'm like, yeah, they are. Like, but we don't have any other choice. We can't keep running. We have to sit here under this tree and wait. And so I don't even know how long it was. I mean, the adrenaline never stopped pumping. You want to talk about a rush and like a way to really like wake yourself up, that's it. And so we're sitting under this tree, and eventually like it's like maybe 4 a.m, so sun hadn't come out, but like it's getting ready like 2 in the next couple hours, and we hear these noises. And we look at each other like, what the fuck is that? Obviously no one can hear us, but like, what the fuck is that? And we look up in the sky and we see these like lights, and we're like, holy fuck, they're drones. These are fucking drones flying around the fucking sky. And they would like zip past us, like get a little closer. And there's 2 of them. They're just flying around. And he's like, do you think they can see us? And I was like, do you think they have thermal? Like, do you think these things can see us? No way, right? And so I'm like, sit still, don't move. So we curl up in balls and like lay under this tree. And we're like, they can't see us. There's no way they can see us. 20 minutes go by, and we're just sitting there like looking at the drones in the sky with our eyes, trying not to move our head, looking at these things. Eventually, and they're just two of them hovering like right above us. And I'm like, oh my God. And then we hear the cop sirens getting closer. And we can hear like tires screeching, and these like cops are like flying up this mountain that we're on this road that's got to be near us, because we can hear them like screaming down the road. And I look at this dude, this scared shitless 16-year-old. I look at him, I'm like, we're caught. We're fucked. Hey, look at me. We're fucked. Don't do anything crazy. We're going to walk out with our hands up, because they're going to shoot us. If we do anything crazy, they're going to shoot us. I said, do not get me killed. We're going to walk out with our hands up. And eventually all these cops are parked like, and it was maybe only like 75 yards from where we were. We couldn't tell where the road was because we were like stuck in the middle of this like dense forestry. But maybe not even 75 yards, maybe like 40 yards. And the whole woods like light up. There's like 8 spotlights like sitting like pointed directly at us. I'm like, we're going to walk out with our hands up. Don't get us killed. And so we start making our way out there. Hands up, like walking out the woods. And there's like 12 cop cars. All these dudes have like AR-15s pointed at our heads. And we walk out and we're like, don't shoot. You know, like we're unarmed. And these big dudes just come and like grab us and slam us on the fucking ground. Fucking cuff us. Throw us in the back of this cruiser. And we sat in the back of the cruiser for a long time. We didn't even go anywhere. I was in one. He was in the other. They wouldn't put us together. And what happened? This cop gets in finally he gets in the seat and he just starts driving. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, well, I think they asked us. They were like, because it wasn't uncommon for kids to run away. I think it was uncommon for kids to run away and steal a car and like, you know, get a owner to like come out with a gun and everything, like call the cops like that. It was like a manhunt. That is uncommon, but they definitely were like used to kids running away from this camp. So I think they asked us like, are you from like this camp? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay. And so he starts driving. It's like this dude, and he's just taking us back. I'm like, are you taking us back? He's like, yeah. And I remember during that 10 days I was there, I was questioning everything, and I was like, I was like, who owns this thing? Like, who actually like owns something like this and like makes something like this? And one of the counselors was like, oh, well, this guy owns it, but you'll never ever meet the owner of this place. And I was like, well, why not? I want to like shake their hand and tell them thank you for, you know, bringing me here and saving my life. And he like laughed it off and was like, the only time you'll ever meet the owner is if you're in serious trouble. Nobody ever meets the owner. And this cop takes us back to that office where we get checked in, and the owner's just standing there. Just fucking standing out at like 5 a.m, like waiting for us. The other kid who was caught before us is like already like tucked away. And so they put us in this like trailer home office building, and they separate us all. I got like the little waiting room. There was like a couple, like 4 chairs in this like waiting room, like a table. And they just put like a sleeping bag on the floor and had some dude assigned to like watching me. This other dude was like over in like the dining area, like with his own person, like to where we couldn't talk to each other. And this other dude was like in like the bedroom or something, like completely separated and fucked. And we stayed there. I mean, the owner was pissed. He's like, I am so disappointed in you boys. Like, what the fuck were you thinking? This and that, you know? And it was like crazy. I remember like I stayed in that like guest room. I slept there for like 2 nights. But I'd been like 10 days in the wilderness eating like rice and like noli and PB or whatever the fuck they called it. And I found like a bowl of like Hershey's Kisses like sitting in the waiting room. And I felt like I was rich, you know? I was like, yeah, like I'm out the woods. But like all the kids in my group are eating that bullshit rice and beans or whatever. Like I got some Hershey Kisses. So I really did I remember that. I remember eating them and like feeling like really cool about it and happy that I found them. So anyway, 2 days pass and it's like 3 a.m. and I'm asleep in this waiting room and like somebody like shoves me and like wakes me up. I'm like, what? Lo and fucking behold, guess who it was? It was the guy who picked me up the first time. The exact same guy. And this time he brought 4 guys with him. Not 2, but 4. He upgraded. So he wakes me up and he's like, "What happened, man?" And I was like, "Fuck this place." Like, that's what I said. I said, "Fuck this place. This shit sucks." "Oh, come on, man. I had a lot of hope in you." "Fucker. Fuck you, dude, guy. Whoever you are, fuck you. Because, like, you're putting kids through some crazy shit is what you're doing." So, they load me up. They grab the other kid I was with, and we get into this, like, Yukon, this, like, huge Yukon. And he drives us down to Atlanta. And I remember we stop at McDonald's before we get to the airport. He tells me he's flying us to Utah. We're flying to Utah. And he stops at McDonald's, and right before we get to the airport, he's like, "You boys want some breakfast?" And I'd been eating rice and beans for 10 days, which was not a long time, but, like, I was like, "Yeah, I want some McDonald's." Like, fuck yeah. Like, I know what's coming next. Like, give me some Dons. And that was the first time I ever ate a sausage McGriddle. The first time in my life. I remember that. It was a pleasant experience. I really enjoy, like, the sweetness of the pancake and the savoriness of the sausage. And the cheese could probably do away with, but solid. First time McGriddle experience was during this time. So we get to the Atlanta airport, and they kind of brief us before we walk into this airport. They're like, "Look, you boys came to this program as a 2-star of, like, a 2 of 5 stars, like, of, like, risk level. You know, you're now a 5-star, like, risk level. If you boys run, we're going to catch you." He said, "Don't run." He said, "You're going to stand in between all of us, all 4 of us or whatever, all 5 of us. You're going to stand in between us, and we're going to walk you through this airport. We're going to board the flight, and everything's going to go smoothly." I'm still wearing this, like, jumpsuit and these, like, hiking boots. And we get out of this car, and I remember walking through this airport. Now, it's COVID, so there's not many people in the airport at all. And Atlanta is a very, very busy airport. And there was nobody in there. But the people that were in there, every single one of them was staring at us because me and this dude are in jumpsuits, and we're getting escorted by these, like, 6'4", 200-pound units through the Atlanta airport. Like, we looked like felons, which I didn't know at this time. You know, I didn't know what happened with the car or anything like that. I was still to figure that out. But we looked like felons, which I was at this point, but I didn't know. So we board this flight. I remember watching a couple movies, and, like, on the flight, and I'm like, yeah, like, 10 days without movies. Like, I really need to watch a couple movies. Like, I'm so spoiled. I'm, like, so in civilization now. Like, life is so good. I need to, like, soak this up. And he tells us he's taking us to this, like, place in Utah. So we land in Salt Lake City, and we get in the car, and he's like, "This is going to be like an 8.5 hour car ride. I'm not telling you where we're going." Beer break. 1 second. And the whole car ride is, like, just, like, crazy. We're both just, like, obviously, like, me and this dude are, like, cooler friends now that he's picked me up, like, a second time. We tell him, like, everything that went down and everything, and, like, how crazy it was, this and that. And so we pull up to a small town called Kanab, Utah. It's a tiny little, like, dot on the map in Utah. The last little town before, like, the Grand Canyon, like, all this, like, barren desert. And we do the onboarding process in this, like, bike shop / like, wilderness office. I remember seeing bikes on the wall and thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, are we renting bikes? Like, what are we doing? And so they split me and this kid up. I don't see him again ever. Actually, no, that's not true. I do see him again. But they split us up. We do our onboarding process. They asked me to squat again and, like, squeeze anything out of my ass if it was there, and, like, strip search me and everything. And they put me in this, like, big ass, like, Ford Excursion with this, like, dude. And I don't remember his name, but I remember him being, like, super, super cool. Like, this dude's, like, very, like, granola, like, wilderness, like, outdoor, like, super cool, man. And we talked about, like, movies and stuff. And he drives me, and I get to sit shotgun. It's just me and him, and, like, they had a lot of faith. Granted, we're in the middle of the desert, and it's probably like 100 fucking degrees out there, and like we're in the middle of fucking nowhere, so like there's nowhere to go. But I sit shotgun with this dude, and we cruise on out. And this is the start of the second wilderness program that I was enrolled in. And it's like a 2.5, 3 hour drive into this huge like national park. The Grand Staircase Escalante. We were in like the northern, we were maybe in like the middle of the staircase, but like the whole like wilderness program goes through like the whole like top section. The bottom section being the Grand Canyon. So like everything north of that. It's like 200 miles or whatever. And they take me out, and we finally get to this like camp. It's not even a camp. The only thing that was like marking where we were, like we drove this like, it's not even a road. It's like this like trail, like off-road thing. And there's these like water jugs, these big ass blue water jugs, like sitting off this like road. And he's like, all right, take your pack, take everything you got, hike like, I'm going to walk you. We're going to hike like a little bit into the woods over here. And it's not like woods, guys. Like this is the middle of the fucking desert. There's nothing except like dust and like shrubs and like nothing. Like desert, like woodland. So I walk out there and I lay my eyes on this group of young men. And my first like thought goes to like, holy shit, this is the movie Holes. Like these kids are dirty. Like the kids with glasses got like dust on their glasses, like a fucking like movie. It was like a fucking movie. All these kids are fucking like filthy, dirty, like covered in dust and mud and just bullshit. Their hair's like fucking sticking up and everything. And I'm like, what the fuck have I got myself into? Come to find out, I am at a program called Wingate in Utah. And I was to spend the next 70 days of my life there in the middle of the desert. The program itself, it really consisted of like learning. You would learn like survival stuff. They would teach you how to like make a fire with like a bow drill and like, you know, like the Indians and shit. It was all like very like, you got to learn how the Indians did it out here or whatever. We would do like group sessions at night, and I would have a therapist like drive out and like meet me once a week, and we'd go like sit on a log, and he'd ask about like me, who I was, try to get a read on me, and then ask like how I'm like fitting into the group and everything. How do you break down this experience? Everybody I was with out there, and I'm sure maybe all of them say that like nowadays, which if they're even out of the programs nowadays, which is kind of sad, but like a lot of them are still in those programs or dead. They were all out of their fucking mind insane. You learn a lot of stories from people of all types of like walks of life, like severe trauma that these kids like were dealing with, and like horrible decisions of like, you know, I smoked pot, I vaped, I snuck out the house or whatever, but like these kids were talking about like like smoking meth at 13 and like stabbing their dad, or like fucking like threatening a kid at school with like a gun or something. And I'm like, fuck, like I am crazy. Fuck, I am crazy. Like I obviously belong here if I've made my way here. Now I will say, like, of all the crazy stories, which you hear a lot of, they all thought that like running away from the other camp and like stealing a car, they thought that was like badass. Which, I mean, it was cool. It's definitely like a story I'll bring up at a party. You know, if the conversation's getting dry, I'm like, you want to hear something fucking nuts? It's like, I got caught by drones after stealing a car when I was like running away from a wilderness program. But anyway, we would get letters from home and loved ones, and obviously they would like read them and shit before you could get them. But I remember getting letters from my parents and friends and stuff, because at this point nobody really knew what had happened to me until like 30 days into this program. People assume, like the girl who I was talking to at the time, she was close to my parents, so she knew what was up. Everyone else kind of like assumed when I ran away, like I died or got killed or like got kidnapped, but in like a different sense, or like I'm like on drugs or something, like whatever. Most people had I just disappeared. Snapchat. I just fucking disappeared. Stop Snapchatting all these people I was Snapchatting who were keeping up with what was going on. And eventually I get a letter in the mail, and it's from my dad, and he's like, hey, the guy in North Carolina whose car you stole is pressing charges. And due to like certain legislation dealing with like healthcare facilities, this and that, you were tried as an adult in North Carolina. It is a grand larceny charge for the car and 2 counts of kidnapping because you were the adult in the driver's seat, and at 17 you're an adult in the police state of North Carolina, which is why they had drones and fucking are trying me as an adult. You're getting charged as an adult for grand larceny and 2 counts of like, it's a certain type of kidnapping, but these 2 kids were minors and I was an adult and I was driving a stolen car like away from a medical facility, and the parents said I coerced them into doing it. And it hit me like a sack of bricks, and I was like, holy shit. But he was like, well, but here's the thing is like, you're in a wilderness program in Utah, you can't appear to court. I'm gonna have to like figure out like what's going on with it. So I was a pending felon of like multiple charges, and I couldn't appear to court. And I think I actually missed like the first court date, and when they realized like they had to like figure out why I wasn't at court, and they realized like, holy shit, this kid's in the middle of the desert in Utah. Like, anyway, to this day, I don't know how the charges all got dropped. What I've been told was that my dad had a very long and serious phone call with this man and told him that I was like a troubled youth. I was in that program, and like I'm now at another program. I'm getting better, and that I can't appear to court, and that I'm bettering myself, and what I did was a mistake. I don't know if that's the truth. I don't know what really happened, but all the charges got dropped. But I mean, that's scary to think about. One of the kids that we stole the car with was court ordered to that first program, and like he was already fucked. He was facing like 10 years for like stabbing some kid in like a gang fight or something, and like he was sentenced to this thing as like an out because he was 16 and they didn't want him to go to prison yet. But he got fucked. Like, he went down with those charges. He was the first kid that like threw his hands up and like got caught, and he, I'm sure, is either in jail or dead, like to this day. Like, no idea where that guy is. But yeah, so Wingate, I'm in the desert. I learned a lot about like survival and stuff. You make up games, you have a good time. I met some cool guys out there. You learn a lot. The biggest thing I learned is like I just realized like I was just like a spoiled little bitch, and that like my life could definitely be like a lot worse. Like, there could be somebody in my family like molesting me like when I was a kid, and like having to grow up with that is something like insane. It's unfathomable, and I realized how much I took for granted, and I really did. I definitely like settled down a little bit, but ultimately I never felt like I belonged out there, which it was pretty extreme out there, and a lot of the time like some of the shit hit the mark because these kids are dealing with like serious trauma, and like I'd be like, well, I'm adopted, but I don't think that's like severe trauma. Like, obviously that's how like it affected my life, but like I don't know, whatever. So I don't know. I mean, you would just fuck around. Like, we had fun times out there. All these kids were on meds. And the funniest shit we would do is like one of the kids took trazodone, which is this like super intense like sleeping pill, and they would just like dope this kid up with trazodone like every night before he went to bed. And so we'd all sleep in like a line of sleeping bags like on the ground. And every time this kid would go to bed, like, because he would always go to bed first, he's just unconscious, and we just like poke him and like fuck with him, and like he would never wake up because I mean he's like so fucking deep into the Traz sleep that like there was no coming out of it. And we would like sit on his head and like poke his cheeks and like poke him with a stick and shit. Like, we just thought that was fucking hilarious. So eventually, like, everybody in the group has to do like a solo camping trip, and you like learn all the fire making skills and like skills or whatever, like how you survive out there. Um, I do want to mention, like, I guess because you'd probably be curious as to like how it worked. Basically, you would hike every day, like 5 to 6, 7 miles. You would set up camp that night. Someone had to make a fire, and once a week they would like drive in food from like town, and you would get food, and they would refill your like water juggies. Or no, the water jugs would be at the next site you were gonna camp at, because all the staff had GPS on their phone, and the staffs had knives that you had to earn privileges to, like, you had to like pass a test or whatever to like use the knife, but you could use the knife to like carve shit. So like we would make like the bows for like this, and like made shit, and I mean, you know what I mean, like, but like most of these kids would like, I mean, this one guy was so fucking crazy. Like, he made a shank and like hid it from all the staff and stuff. Anytime someone pissed him off, he would like flash it and like threaten to like stab somebody in their sleep. He always talked about like killing dogs when he was a kid and shit. Like, he was fucking nuts, out of his mind, fucking crazy. But I mean, we try to be friends with him. I remember him catching, because we'd always cook on like an open fire. We had like a pot. We all had like one pot that we would all cook, like each had our own pot. And this kid like would catch like bugs and shit and like throw them in this pot and like sprinkle like pepper on them and just fucking eat them. And was like, yeah, like this is good protein or whatever. I mean, that's just the type of like bullshit you would deal with on a day-to-day basis, was like watching a man eat like grasshoppers and shit. But anyway, my time for my solo trip comes around, and you know, we're not supposed to talk to anybody. You're not supposed to see anybody, but you have to like stay within sight, because they obviously think you're gonna run. And speaking of running, there is no running when you're 280 miles away from the closest like civilization. You can't run. But obviously, kids in these other groups, and we would see kids in these other groups like twice in my whole time. You would run into another group of guys, and everyone would like look at each other and be like whatever. I met a kid from Dr. Phil when we met one time in this like ravine, because we were doing this like trip to this ravine. We met this kid from Dr. Phil. It was this white guy, and the first thing he did was like say like "what up," and then just called everyone the N-word, like hard R and everything. We're like, whoa, like this is a Dr. Phil kid. But yeah, if you ran from this program, we figured out what would happen. You'd be up at night, like sleep or like staying awake, like looking at the stars, because it was fucking gorgeous out there. And out of nowhere, you just hear like this like chopper in the distance, and a fucking helicopter. You would just see it, and it would have a spotlight on it, just like sweeping the ground. And they'd be like, "Oh, like somebody ran, another runner." It felt like Nazi Germany out there, is what it felt like. And they told stories about like kids like dying when they left, or like crazy shit. I mean, the craziest fucking shit you could fucking imagine. Anyway, solo trip comes around, and we're hiking that first day. And we're like hiking down this like mountain. We come out in this flat, and I'm like 50 yards from my group, and I fucking like my ankle hits something. I'm like, fuck, that hurt. What is that? And I look down. It is a full elk shed, like yay big, fucking huge, like half the height of me. It's an entire elk antler, and the elks in certain times their antlers just fall off, and they just grow new antlers. But it was a pristine condition, like elk antler. And I'm looking at this thing, and I thought it was like a stick at first. I'm like, that's a very white looking stick. And my eyes open, and I'm like, holy fuck. That's a fucking elk antler. And people would find like coyote bones or coyote skulls and shit. But I found a fucking elk antler. I fucking hit my leg on it. And I like start screaming. And the group stops and like, what the fuck's going on? I like pick up this bone over my head, and I'm like, shaking it up and down like a caveman. I'm like, whoa, like holy shit. And then I looked down, and there was the other fucking antler, not 2 yards from where I found the first one. And I'm like, I'm not, at this point I broke like the silent agreement or whatever. And the staff walks over. He's like, holy fucking shit. There's no way you just found that. That's worth like a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, guy, like, I'm not leaving this here. I got my phone call like last week that I might be getting out of here in like 2 weeks. So I'm taking these with me. He's like, it's not feasible. We have to hike like 80 miles over the next 2 weeks. Like, you just can't do it. And I was like, I'm going to do it. So I strapped these 2 fucking antlers to the back of my like big ass hiking pack. And I hiked them out of the program. I hiked 80 miles with them on my back. And I hiked them out of the entire program. And we would be hiking and shit. And I would have these fucking antlers coming over my head and like spread out on my back. It felt badass. I felt like chosen by God or something. Because, I mean, that's just like the chances of finding something like that is like astronomically low. Anyway, so like I'm finishing up those last 2 weeks. I got, during your time there, you get one like satellite phone call with your family. And so my parents called me and they're like, well, how are you? How is everything? I'm like, I'm good. Life's okay. You know, like I'm just out here in the desert. They're like, we're coming to pick you up. We're coming to Utah. We're going to come pick you up in 2 weeks. And I remember, I mean, you just get anxious. You're thinking about leaving. You've been in the desert for like 73 days, whatever I was out there for. And you're just thinking like, holy shit, I'm going to leave. And they hype up a lot of shit to you while you're in there. They're like, you know, outside food so good. We talked about food so much. They're like, what's your favorite burger? You know, this and that while you're eating like bullshit. I was actually deemed a wilder chef because I would turn like all the food I got into like a gourmet meal. Like they gave us stuff to make bread and I would make like pizzas and shit. And like it was cool. Like I collected shit over time and like would eventually like have enough to make like a meal. Wilder chef. That was my title actually my whole time out there. But yeah, I'm anxious about leaving. Very anxious about leaving. And then they finally come, and I remember that morning, I couldn't sleep at all, like all night. I'm just thinking about leaving. And that morning, you hear that like big ass Ford Excursion come and pull up, and they're like, "All right, like, are you packed up and ready to go?" And I remember like pulling out my backpack's got the elk sheds on it. I just throw it in the trunk, and the driver's like, "Holy fuck, what is that?" And I'm like, "Yo, like I found this." And there's this like girl in the car with me, and this girl was hairy. Like they don't give anybody razors or anything to shave out there, and I didn't realize like girls' legs get like super hairy, and this girl had some hairy legs, and her arms were big and hairy, and she had like a mustache. I'm like, yo, like you did that wilderness experience, didn't you? And she was talking to me. She was actually really cute, probably without the mustache and the leg hair and shit, but she was telling me about her experience out there, and like she's like, all the girls in my group were crazy, and this like one girl like fucking like grabbed a knife and like stabbed herself in the throat and like ran away and like had to get like lifted out in a helicopter. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, how old are you? I'm 14. I'm like, whoa. That's fucking crazy. And I remember, so they don't drive you in a car to like go meet your parents. They make you do some like cinematic like last hike down this fucking trail to like go reunite with all these like people's parents out. And so like they like drop me off and they're like, it's just like half a mile up the road. I'm like, you motherfuckers. So I got these elk sheds on my back and I'm like with my trail bag on and I'm like covered in dust. Like I look like a fucking homeless man. And I walk out and all these parents are out there. The wilderness, like the camp, like the program director's out there. And he comes up, and I'm like, you know, I give everyone a hug and shit, and everyone's blown away by the elk antlers. And he comes up and tells me, like, yo, like, that's the rarest thing that in the 60 years that this program has existed, that's the rarest thing that anybody's ever found out in the property. Like, it's you know, it's the chances of that happening are, like, astronomically low. And then we have, like, a big group circle, and my family puts me in this rental car, and they drive me back into town. And I eat a double fucking cheeseburger with garlic parm fries and a milkshake because the staff loved this fucking burger joint. It was like the only burger joint in town. And they hyped it up. And they're like, when you leave, the first thing you got to do is get this burger. So I told my parents, like, I got to get this burger. And I remember crying after eating the first bite of that greasy double fucking cheeseburger. Just fucking bawling my eyes out. And that milkshake, dude, it was so fucking good. I get to the hotel, and I fucking shower for the first time in like 90 days. Because, you know, the time before that I didn't shower. Dude, it took me like 40 minutes to like clean everything off, and I was like, finally the water was running like clear. Fucking crazy. My clothes had to get put in a trash bag and like taken out because I smelled like shit. And then my family like kind of like puts it on me. They're like, well, look, the program says that, guys, we're going into a long episode today. We're an hour and 30 in, but should I do a part 2 and like come back? We'll close up. We're getting close. They put it on me. My family kind of breaks the ice. I think they might have told me this on that satellite phone call. They're like, look, the program recommends that coming directly back into civilization after something like as intense as this, it usually doesn't lead to like a successful future or whatever. They like worded it all weird. So they always recommend like an aftercare program. And a lot of these kids I talked to in this program like had been to an aftercare program. They went to a program and then went to an aftercare program for 2 years and then get kicked out, and then they go to wilderness, and then they have like a 2-year aftercare program lined up afterwards. And we're talking like 2 years of intensive treatment and 6 years of like a half in, half out like treatment. And these are kids who like go in at 13, and don't leave till they're like 20, which is it's fucking crazy. These kids just like, their parents never say they got better. Parents said, that they're not better yet. If you ask me, it's a bunch of like irresponsible parents who their kid might have had issues from the parent, and they just were never up to their standards and shit. And so the parents keep them in these programs, which sometimes are the financial aid from government. And so these kids are stuck in these programs for like years and years and years on end. It's fucking insane. But anyway, my parents bought the bullshit, and my parents were paying out of pocket, and they're like, yo, we guarantee, we recommend an aftercare program for your boy. And we heard that he has substance abuse issues, nicotine, marijuana, and 4 Locos. So we would recommend, since y'all don't want to do the 2-year route, we recommend sending him to this rehab in Austin, Texas, for it usually lasts 6 months to like 12 months, 6 to 12 month rehab. And that's when they dropped the bomb on me. I think it was on the satellite phone call. They're like, look, like, we're going to come get you. We're going to hang out and have some fun for like 24 hours, but then you're going to go to this fucking place in Austin, Texas. Flashback, first episode of the show yesterday, I was talking about when I went to Austin, Texas. And I think I actually said I'd never been to Austin, Texas, which at this rehab, we were actually like an hour outside of Austin. And they didn't let us go anywhere, but I had been before. So anyway, I'm leaving. We fly from this like private airport in Utah, and we get on this plane and we fucking fly. It's not even a private airport. It's just like a fucking dust strip in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's not even an airport. There's nothing private about it. It's very public to like nature and like the world. Like, there's probably a homeless dude like pitched a tent in the fucking hangar or whatever. Like, it's just not even an airport. And we fly to Austin. We stay at this hotel, and I'm just thinking like, holy God, it's good to be back in civilization. Like, I've missed it. I've missed the noise. What's crazy was the biggest thing I remember is like when I was getting that burger at this like joint in Utah. You don't realize like how loud like civilization is. Like the sound of cars and the sound of like people, and like, dude, it was fucking crazy. Like, I remember like being like, wow, like it's so loud out here, like I didn't realize how loud things are. So I get to Utah, or to Austin, and we get a hotel for the night, and I was so fucking upset. I did not want to go anywhere else for another 60 days, but I'd matured out of running away and shit. I didn't even try it once in the desert, probably because I would have died or gotten called by a helicopter. So I was just so sad. I was like, do I really have to go to this? Like, I'm ready to go at home. I think I'm better. Like, I feel like a changed man. They're like, yeah, like, we think this is best. COVID's still like a thing, but I guess less of a thing. Like, people kind of realized what it was at this point and realized like, okay, well, people aren't just falling over and dying from it. I just took a sip of beer. And I remember going and getting what I eat for the Shake Shack for the first time in my life. A lot of firsts during this journey. I went by myself to go walk and go to a Shake Shack. It kind of was like my parents showed me that, hey, we trust you not to do anything stupid. Why don't you go get yourself a burger at Shake Shack? And I remember eating a burger at Shake Shack by myself, and I felt free. I felt free knowing that the next day I was about to get enrolled into a rehab. Well, okay, they didn't say rehab. That's the funny thing. Is like they don't tell me I'm going to rehab. They say I'm going to a aftercare program that is shorter than the programs that most of these kids go to. That's what they tell me. And so the next morning we show up to this place, and I'm getting checked in. At this point, I'm used to getting checked in. Like, I'm good. I'm getting used to it. And the first, my parents drop me off. They give me hugs. They're crying. They're like, bye. Like, we'll see you later. And I'm like, that's sweet. At least you still care about me. They were doing therapy because the program before this made sure that they did therapy too. And I think they realized, like, they were kind of, like, off their rocker, insane a little bit, just as much as I was, or maybe as a reaction to how much I was. And the first question this dude asked when we finally get to alone time, as I'm, like, squatting and, like, coughing again, God, they loved making me do that. I've done that more times in my life than I'm, like, proud to say. Because I've gotten arrested and, like, spent time in jail. I never spent the night, but every time I get arrested and go to jail, like, they fucking... It's not like I actually get arrested and go to jail. Actually, the both times that it happened, I was, like, falsely imprisoned. That's a whole nother story. But the first thing this dude asked me is, like, what's your DOC? And I'm like, I, like, hadn't talked to, like, normal people in, like, a long time. And I'm like, is this some, like, new, like, slang word that's come off this new app, like, TikTok, that I just, like, don't get? Or what? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, come on, man, your drug of choice. What's your drug of choice? I'm like, well, I tried, like, too many things. I was like, weed. And he goes, what? I was like, he's like, no, like, what do you like? What drugs do you do? I'm like, I drink. He's like, what? Oh, so alcohol. Oh, okay. So we got another alcoholic here. Yeah. I was like, no, like, I don't even, like, really drink like that. Like, I smoke. I really like weed. Is what I say. He's like, threw him for a loop. You're like, well, cool, man. Mine was meth and Xanax. And there I was, a 17-year-old boy who had only ever smoked a little pot, drank a little bit, and did a lot of vaping, was officially enrolled in a intensive rehabilitation program for extreme risk drug addicts in, like, Austin, Texas. For another 67 days. What happened in that program, we'll have to get into another time. But let me look at my thumbnail, because I already made the thumbnail. Yeah, I just had to see the ton of topics I was going to get into. We hit it all. Wilderness, kidnappings, wilderness camps, felonies, and trauma. I wouldn't say it's a traumatic experience, at least not to me today. There was a lot of time where I was very, like, it made me like a light sleeper for a long period of time. Any footsteps I heard, like, in my room or outside my door, like, I would wake up and, like, be ready for. There's not much really traumatic about it. I definitely think it opened my eyes to... It made me more cynical in a sense. Like, it made me, like, realize... It took me out of, like, all the cushion I'd ever lived in up until this point and realized that, like, the world is actually, like, a really fucked up place. And that a lot of really evil shit happens all the time to people who look and talk just like normal people, but they're actually not. And I think that's like that's a thing that like most people don't realize is that like, I mean, yeah, obviously everyone has their own shit, but like some people's shit is some of like the saddest and hardest things to hear you could ever fucking imagine. And you would never know looking at these people because they look just like maybe one of your high school buddies, or just like you know, a kid who could almost shut off the stream, or just like a kid who, you know, you wouldn't even take a second glance at. Just looks like completely innocent, completely fine. And you know, this kid's fucking shooting up when he's 12 years old because his mom like leaves her needles around type shit. Like, it's fucking crazy. And I don't know, it definitely made me, I will say the emotional maturity that I gained from all of it was something that has propelled me through the remaining the past 5 years of my life. You know, all the years after that, it allowed me to connect with people, I think, on a realer note. I think before that whole thing, I didn't really know who I was, and I was kind of like trying to act cool or this or that or whatever. I learned to like sit and kind of listen to people, and like really listen to people and communicate with people in a way that like most people are, it's alien to them. You know, most people are so used to like the fake whatever that when someone real actually comes along and like really listens to them and is able to communicate with someone on like an emotional level, like, whoa, like it's fucking crazy to most people. So I learned a lot out there. A lot of my friends argued that I never needed it. Most people I tell it are like, oh, I would never be able to forgive my family or ever talk to them ever again. But you kind of come to realize that like everyone had a part in, you know, leading up to that type of like escalation of it. Because I mean, that's hard to do. It's like send your kid off. It's hard, you know, knowing that your kid may resent you forever or whatever, which I very well could have. But I realized, you know, I had my faults. Definitely 1000% had my faults. And my parents realized they had their faults. If my parents were stubborn and hard-headed and just thought that they were in the right the entire time, which we've had conversations about, like, it's difficult. It's definitely one of the most insane things that exist in American society is like the ability to intervene with a minor and alter their path, because it altered my entire path and I had no say. That to me is something that it was very hard to kind of wrap my head around. A lot of things came after this. I got a lot worse actually after these programs. It took me a long time. For a while I was actually really good. And then you kind of break the honeymoon period and I kind of was like good. I was like same old me, but like being smarter about it, realizing that like, okay, well, like you got to be more responsible and smart about this, and like, you know, at least emotionally mature and like be honest with people, stop lying. But eventually like things got really, really bad, like really, really bad. And that kind of is like from that point and like into college and like a little bit of Austin was like, you know, I don't think you can force a child, not a child. You can't force anybody to learn. You can't force anybody to mature, and you can't force anybody to grow. As hard as it is to watch someone who's suffering, it's only them who can decide when enough is enough. And they have to take that first step into the right direction, and you can support them the whole way through, but you can never force somebody to do it. And I was forced to do it, and there are good things that came out of it, but ultimately I think it left me in an alternate timeline almost. It kind of altered the course of the rest of my life, and everything's meant to be. That's my own personal philosophy, is that everything I mean, everything is, it just is. So my past is, and all I am is now. And what I do with that is up to me. And I think things are good. And I'm happy for all the things that I've ever lived through. Plus, it makes for a really kick-ass story that you can tell the boys over a couple beers, like new friends or whatever. You can just drop the bomb on them, tell them everything I just told y'all in the past hour and 45 minutes. I really didn't even think I was going to go this long tonight, but I really just kept talking. I'm kind of glad I did. This is what I mentioned it about last episode. I kind of said, like, I got to get these out of my system, like the Austin stuff, which I'm going to have to go back in depth about because y'all are missing some crazy, juicy, like, fun stories. But this one is definitely, like, a big one. It was definitely, what did I say, canon event? Definitely a canon event in my life. And I didn't even go into all of it. We hadn't even gotten to, like, the rehab part or whatever, but that's all for another time. Wow. It's 10 o'clock. I thought I was going to go to the gym tonight, but today will be a rest day. But yeah. Crazy shit. I don't know what else I want to talk about. I kind of hit all the topics. I'm an hour and 45 in. Second episode ever. Do y'all think this one was better or worse than the last one? This one was definitely a different pace. It definitely had a different maybe vibe to it in my opinion. I think I said less, which is a good thing. So we're learning and growing, and that's all we can do. What we do, we don't do it, but what I'm going to do from now on, we did it last episode, so we're going to do it tonight. I'm going to end the show with a fun fact generated by ChatGPT. The last one was interesting. It was like, did you know that sea otters hold hands so that they don't float apart when they sleep? Which is beautiful. I mean, that's fucking beautiful. Give me a random fun fact. Okay. I ask it and it gives me the exact same one. I'm going to say another more random and fun fact. This one's lame. Did you know that bananas are actually berries, but strawberries are not? What is a strawberry then? A strawberry is technically an aggregate accessory fruit rather than a true berry. True berries, like bananas or grapes, develop from a single ovary of a flower and have seeds inside. Strawberries, on the other hand, form from multiple ovaries in a single flower, meaning each little seed, like dot, called a teeny, on the outside is actually its own tiny fruit. The red juicy part we eat is just a swollen part of the flower's receptacle. If you're eating flowers, strawberries, fuck, if you're eating flowers, you're screwed. But if you're eating strawberries, you are eating swollen flower cooch. So maybe you are eating flowers, but you're eating swollen flower coochie when you munch on a red strawberry. Think about that while y'all get some sleep tonight. We got to go to bed. Y'all need some sleep. You got a big day tomorrow. Thank y'all for tuning in. I will see y'all tomorrow.